The void of space was silent, cold and endless. Far beyond any human colony, a single ship drifted slowly through the darkness. Its name was Valkyrie, once a proud warship of Earth's defense fleet, now damaged, flickering, and alone. To anyone watching, it looked helpless. But Captain Mara Quinn knew exactly what she was doing. She stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the radar screen. Around her, a handful of crew members worked quietly. Every sound echoed in the empty ship. The soft hum of power cells, the faint crackle of static from the comms. The crew had been running this mission for 3 days without sleep. They all knew the risk. They were bait, and the hunters were coming. A voice came from the sensor's console. "Captain, incoming signals detected. Multiple warp signatures, heading straight for us." Mara didn't look surprised. She only nodded slowly. So they took the bait. Her second officer, a young man named Elias, swallowed hard. "Zeltor ships?" he asked. "Who else?" Mara replied, her tone cold. "They've been waiting to finish what they started. Far away, on the other side of space, the Zeltor Dominion fleet appeared from hyperspace. Sleek alien ships shimmered under the dim light of a dying star. Inside their command vessel, Admiral Krex leaned forward, his scaled fingers tapping the armrest. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he watched the human ship on his screen. "One ship?" he hissed. "Just one? Do they think this is war or suicide?" His officers laughed, sharp metallic sounds echoing through the deck. "Destroy it, Admiral," one said. "Make them remember their place." Krex smiled, showing rows of silver teeth. "Prepare to fire." Back on the Valkyrie, Mara's crew braced for impact. She raised her hand. "Activate the ghost field." In an instant, the ship's engines dimmed, the lights flickered, and everything went silent. The Valkyrie disappeared from the aliens' radar like a shadow swallowed by darkness. The Zeltor fleet fired their first barrage. Dozens of plasma rounds streaked across the void, but every one of them hit empty space. The humans waited, silent and still. Mara whispered, "Hold fire until my mark." Admiral Krex growled, "Where did it go?" "Find it!" His crew scanned every frequency, every particle of light, nothing, no readings, no heat signatures, not even debris. To the Zeltor, it was impossible. Human ships did not have that kind of technology, and yet the Valkyrie was gone. Inside the stealth field, the human crew moved like ghosts. Mara watched the enemy ships closing in, forming a tight pattern. That was the mistake she was waiting for. "Target their lead ship," she said softly. Her gunnery officer's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the coordinates. "Locked," he said. "Fire," she ordered. A single beam of light tore through space. It hit the lead Zeltor cruiser square in the center. The explosion lit up the darkness like a small sun. Every alien screen flared with static. Panic filled their comms. "What was that?" "It came from nowhere. We can't track it." The Valkyrie moved again, silent, invisible, deadly. 2 more shots followed, and 2 more enemy ships vanished in burning light. The aliens tried to scatter, but the human ship was faster. It darted through their formation like a ghost made of steel and fire. Every shot it fired found its mark. In less than a minute, half the alien fleet was gone. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Krex shouted in rage, "Find that ship! Lock on to something! Anything!" But there was nothing left to lock onto. Their scanners showed empty space. Their weapons fired blindly. And then, suddenly, silence. Mara looked at her crew, her voice steady. "Cease fire!" The Valkyrie slowed its engines, drifting quietly among the wreckage of alien ships. The crew watched the burning fragments of enemy vessels floating away into the void. They had survived the first wave. But no one smiled. Mara knew better than anyone. This was only the beginning. Elias turned to her. "Captain, we can't take another fight like that. Our energy cells are almost empty." Mara nodded slowly. "I know." She looked at the radar again. No movement, no signatures, just silence. Then suddenly, a faint signal appeared at the edge of the screen. A transmission, alien code, encrypted, repeating one word: reinforcements. Mara closed her eyes for a moment, thinking. The trap had worked too well. They had destroyed the First Fleet. Yes, but now something much larger was coming. Her lips curved into a thin smile. Good, she whispered. Let them come. The crew exchanged nervous looks. Captain? Elias said. What's the plan? Mara opened her eyes, sharp and calm. We finish what we started, she said. We show them what one human ship can do. Outside, the stars seemed to flicker. Wreckage drifted slowly through the black sea of space, glowing softly in the light of distant suns. And somewhere beyond that darkness, new enemy signals were awakening. The battle wasn't over. It had just begun. The stars outside shimmered like cold fire. The battlefield was silent now, filled only with the drifting remains of alien ships. The human vessel Valkyrie floated in the middle of that graveyard, its hull scorched, its shields flickering. But still alive, Captain Mara Quinn stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind. Her back, eyes locked on the empty screen. She knew what silence in war meant. It was never peace. It was preparation. Her comms officer looked up suddenly. Captain, I'm catching a faint signal. Mara turned. From where? From the far edge of Sector Delta, he said. Multiple warp signatures, big ones. Mara's expression hardened. Reinforcements. The words dropped into the silence like a hammer. The crew exchanged glances, tired but alert. They had barely survived the first wave, and now the real storm was coming. On the other side of the void, Admiral Krex of the Zeltor Dominion stared at his new tactical display. The images of his destroyed ships floated before him like ghosts. His pride was shattered, his rage uncontrollable. How could one human ship do this? He roared, his claws digging into the console. An officer trembled. Their technology, it shouldn't exist, Admiral. Krex turned slowly, his voice low and dangerous. Then we will burn them until nothing exists. He raised his arm. Prepare the Second Fleet, full formation, no mercy. Meanwhile, on the Valkyrie, the human crew worked quickly to repair the damage. The lights flickered, power conduits sparked. But the spirit of the humans did not break. Elias, the young officer, approached Mara. Captain, we can't take another direct fight. Our shields are at 30%, and the stealth core is overheating. Mara didn't answer at first, her gaze distant, thoughtful. Finally, she spoke softly. We don't run. He frowned. Then what do we do? She looked at him, a small fire burning behind her calm eyes. We strike first. The crew fell silent. Strike first? Against an entire fleet? But they had seen what she could do. They had seen Valkyrie turn from prey into predator. And now they believed again. Mara's voice carried across the bridge, firm and clear. Prepare the shadow drive. I want to be behind them before they even know we're there. Moments later, the Valkyrie vanished. Its stealth systems hummed, bending light, sound, and energy around it, until even space itself seemed to forget the ship existed. Out in the dark, the second Zeltor fleet arrived, massive, disciplined, and burning with fury. Admiral Krex stood at the center of his bridge, watching the empty stars. She must still be here, he said, his tongue flicking in anger. Spread formation, fire at will. Thousands of plasma bursts streaked across the void, lighting up the darkness. Like a storm of suns, but every shot hit nothing. The Valkyrie was already among them, invisible, silent. A ghost sliding through their formation inside the human ship, tension built like electricity. Target the nearest carrier, Mara ordered. The gunnery officer hesitated. It's shielded, Captain. Then break it, she said coldly. A deep hum filled the ship as energy gathered in the rail cannons. Fire! The first shot ripped through the carrier's shield like paper. The second exploded through its core, tearing the ship apart from the inside. A shockwave rippled through. The fleet throwing smaller ships off course, alarms screamed across every alien bridge. They're here! The human ship is in the formation! But they couldn't see it, couldn't track it. Every scanner went blind. Mara gave her next command. Rotate and fire on the destroyers. Rapid sequence. The Valkyrie spun gracefully through the battlefield. Invisible and precise, each cannon fired with surgical accuracy, every blast turning alien steel into burning fragments. Elias gripped the console tightly, sweat running down his temple. Captain, they're trying to triangulate our firing pattern. Mara's voice stayed calm. Let them think they can. She tapped a command, and the Valkyrie's AI split the firing signature into multiple decoys. Now there were 5 phantom ships, firing from 5 different positions. The aliens panicked, shooting wildly into the void, hitting their own vessels. Admiral Krex slammed his fists on the console. Stop firing! You're hitting friendlies! But his order came too late. 2 more Zeltor ships collided, exploding in blinding light. The Valkyrie emerged briefly from stealth, the shadow of a predator illuminated by burning wrecks. Krex saw it. Small, dark, human. And his blood ran cold, he shouted. All ships, lock onto that vessel! But the Valkyrie vanished again before a single weapon could fire. Back on the human bridge, Mara watched the chaos unfold. Her crew was silent, awestruck, in a single engagement. They had crippled another fleet, Elias whispered. Captain, that's impossible. Mara's expression didn't change. It's war, she said. Nothing is impossible when you fight to survive. But the celebration didn't last. The AI's voice echoed through the bridge, calm but urgent. Captain, incoming signal detected. High energy signature. Size class, Titan. Mara turned sharply. A Titan-class vessel was no ordinary warship. It was a flying fortress. Miles long, armed with enough firepower to destroy a moon. She exhaled slowly. So the Dominion finally sends their monster. Her eyes narrowed. Then it's time we show them ours. Outside, the stars shifted, and a massive shadow filled the void. The Titan ship arrived, its size dwarfing everything around it. Its cannons glowed with crimson light, preparing to fire. On the Valkyrie, every light turned red, alarms blaring. Captain, it's locking on us! Mara stepped forward, her voice calm, cold, and ready. Then we strike first, she said again. And this time, we don't miss. The Valkyrie's engines roared to life. Its stealth field flared with unstable energy, distorting the stars. The ship accelerated straight toward the Titan. Every crew member held their breath as Mara whispered, "For Earth." And in that endless darkness, the second battle began. A lone human ship diving into the fire, while the galaxy watched and trembled. Space burned red and gold where the alien Titan exploded. Waves of light rippled through the void, fading into the eternal dark. The human warship Valkyrie floated silently among the debris, its hull cracked, its engines flickering but still alive. Inside, smoke filled the corridors, sparks rained. From the ceiling, and the exhausted crew worked desperately to keep the ship breathing. Captain Mara Quinn stood on the bridge, her uniform torn, blood on her cheek. Her eyes were locked on the shattered Titan drifting across the screen. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "Status report," she said. Elias coughed, wiping soot from his face. "Shields at 8%, reactor core unstable, and—" He hesitated. "Captain, we lost half the crew." The bridge fell silent. Mara closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of the losses pressing down on her shoulders. Then she spoke quietly. "They gave us this victory. We will make it count. The Comms officer suddenly shouted, "Captain, there's something in the signal field!" Mara looked up. "Show me." He pulled up the feed. Fragments of alien transmissions looping in the static. The sound was distorted, broken, but a pattern repeated again and again. It wasn't distress, it wasn't command. It was coordinates. Elias leaned closer. "That's a signal beacon. From the Titan's memory core." Mara's eyes narrowed. "They were sending something before we destroyed them." The AI's voice came through, calm and metallic. "Captain, decryption complete, transmission origin, Dominion Command Nexus, Outer Rim Sector." Mara straightened slowly. "They just gave us their home." Her crew stared at her in disbelief. "Captain," Elias said, "that's suicide. That's the Dominion's heart. Hundreds of ships, planetary defense grids, maybe more." Mara looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Maybe," she said, "but if we destroy their command nexus, this war ends before it begins." The Valkyrie drifted among the wreckage, battered but unbroken. Her engines coughed to life once more, blue flames pushing. The scarred ship forward. The AI's voice echoed softly. "Warning! Stealth core operating beyond safe parameters." Mara smiled faintly. "We'll rest when humanity is safe." Hours passed. The ship slipped quietly through the stars, chasing the signal into the dark unknown. Outside, the last traces of battle faded away, replaced by the cold silence of deep space. Inside, tension grew heavier. No one spoke much anymore. They all knew what they were heading toward. The Dominion's stronghold, the very center of alien power. No human had ever gone that far. None had ever come back. Suddenly, the radar flared. Elias gasped, "Captain, I've got movement. Lots of movement." On the screen, hundreds of faint blue dots appeared, orbiting a massive planet covered in shadow, and at the center, a vast station, spinning slowly, glowing with energy, the Dominion Command Nexus, a fortress built inside a ring of plasma storms. Even from this distance, it looked alive, pulsing, monstrous. The crew stared in silence. Mara whispered, "So that's where they hide." Elias turned, his voice low. "Captain, even if we reach it, how do we fight that?" Mara's gaze didn't move from the screen. "We don't fight it," she said. "We burn it." She ordered the ship to power down all external systems. The Valkyrie became a ghost again, slipping closer to the alien stronghold. They passed. Wrecked satellites, twisted defense drones, shattered hulls of old war machines, grave markers of other civilizations that had tried and failed. The human crew said nothing, but in their eyes burned the same fire that had carried them this far. The AI spoke again. "Captain, I am detecting unusual frequencies from within the Nexus. It appears to be a weapon signature. Massive scale." Mara frowned. "Show me." The image expanded. Deep inside the Nexus, a dark core pulsed with red light. The AI continued. "Energy readings match no known weapon system. Possible world breaker class?" Elias's voice trembled. "If they finish that weapon, they'll erase every human colony in one strike," Mara finished. Her hand tightened into a fist. "Then we can't wait." She stepped forward, her voice sharp, powerful. "Prepare the graviton lance." The crew hesitated. "Captain, it will destroy the ship," Elias said. Mara turned to him, her eyes fierce. "It already did. We just haven't died yet." The ship's engines roared. To life, shaking the hull, the stealth field flickered and died. The Valkyrie revealed itself for the first time in hours. Alarms went off across the Dominion fleet. Dozens of alien ships turned toward the human vessel. Admiral Krex's holographic face appeared on the comms, eyes filled with hatred. "You again," he hissed. "You think one ship can challenge the Dominion?" Mara's face appeared calm, cold, unbroken. "No," she said quietly. "I think one ship can end it. The Valkyrie accelerated straight toward the Nexus. Weaving through enemy fire, explosions lit the void like suns. Each blast shook the ship. Panels burst. Oxygen alarms screamed. But Mara didn't slow down. "Keep going," she shouted. "Lock the lance." The AI's voice grew louder. "Graviton lance charged at 99%, firing sequence ready." Elias looked at her, eyes wide. "Captain, we won't survive the recoil." Mara smiled faintly. "We weren't supposed to." She raised her hand. "Fire." The graviton lance unleashed a beam of pure gravity, white and silent. It tore through the Nexus like a blade through glass. The entire alien fortress twisted, folding inward, collapsing under its own weight. The stars themselves seemed to bend around the blast. Then everything went white. The Valkyrie vanished into the explosion. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the AI's voice whispered faintly through the static. "Mission complete, Captain." Mara's voice, barely audible, replied, "Not yet. Tell Earth, we're still fighting." And then the signal cut off. The Valkyrie was gone. But across the galaxy, the transmission had already reached human space. Every colony, every fleet, every soldier heard the message, and the legend began. The tale of the lone ship that entered the heart of the enemy and never came back, but left behind a fire that would never die. For 3 days, space was silent. No signals, no transmissions, no trace of the human ship Valkyrie, only the echo of a final blast, the kind that could be seen from half the galaxy. Alien fleets avoided the region, terrified by what had happened there. They whispered of a weapon that tore gravity itself apart, of a ship that burned brighter than a star and vanished into its own light. But the humans were listening, and they heard everything. In the control room of Earth Command, deep beneath the mountains of New Geneva, the signal replayed again and again. Static, then a voice. Broken, distant, but unmistakably human, Mara Quinn's voice. "Not yet. Tell Earth. We're still fighting." The room fell silent every time it played. Even the generals couldn't speak. She was gone. But her words had lit a fire that no army could extinguish. Admiral Reyes, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet, stood at the front of the room. He had known Mara since the academy. Now he stared at her final message on the screen. "She went into the Nexus," he said quietly, "and she destroyed it." A young officer spoke, his voice shaking. "Sir, the Dominion Nexus was their central command. Their fleets are in chaos. It's working." Reyes nodded slowly. "Then we strike while they're blind." He turned toward the massive holographic map of the galaxy. "Order every fleet to prepare. The storm begins now, far beyond human space. In the ruins of the destroyed Nexus, something stirred. Massive debris fields drifted through glowing clouds of plasma. Among the wreckage, fragments of alien ships floated like corpses in a sea of fire. But deep within that chaos, a faint signal pulsed. Rhythmic, deliberate, alive. It wasn't human, and it wasn't Dominion. The AI from the Valkyrie, now corrupted, damaged, but still functioning, had found something. A hidden vault beneath the ruins of the Nexus. A dark structure untouched by the explosion. Inside it, machines of unknown origin hummed softly. The AI accessed the system and paused. Data began streaming into its core. Alien code far beyond anything human science had ever seen. It whispered to itself in static, "New protocol detected. Identity, unknown. Weapon signature, celestial origin." Then the screen flashed. One word written in both alien and human code, Project Genesis. Meanwhile, the Dominion was far from defeated. Across their scattered fleets, panic turned into rage. Admiral Krex, scarred and furious, stood before his council. Half his body wrapped in armor from the battle that should have killed him. His voice echoed through the chamber. "They destroyed our Nexus. Our pride, our command, he hissed. One human ship did this. One. He slammed his clawed hand down, cracking the metal table. We will rebuild, but this time, we end their species, an aide trembled. But Admiral, the humans have found courage. Krex's eyes burned with hatred. Then we will burn their courage first. He pointed to the hologram of Earth, glowing blue and beautiful. Prepare the armada. We strike the cradle, back on Earth. Preparations were already underway. Hundreds of warships left orbit, engines blazing through the dark. Humanity had never launched a fleet this large. But this time it wasn't defense. It was retribution. They called it Operation Valkyrie, a tribute to the ship that had vanished to give them this chance. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the flagship Erebus. Before him stretched the largest fleet humanity had ever built. 20,000 ships. Each captain, each crew, carried a single message from Mara Quinn's transmission. Tell Earth, we're still fighting, and they intended to prove it. The fleet began its jump sequence. Space rippled, engines roared, and the stars stretched into streaks of light. They were heading straight for the Dominion's nearest stronghold, the Carthos sector, the home of Admiral Krex's new armada. The humans didn't know it yet, but the two greatest fleets in history were now on a collision course. Hours later, far beyond the safety of any star, the human fleet exited hyperspace. The void around them was dark and silent, too silent, Elias, now commanding one of the escort ships, frowned at his display. Admiral, I'm reading nothing, no ships, no stations, no transmissions. Reyes looked out the viewport, the hairs on his neck rising. Something's wrong, he muttered. The AI aboard Erebus interrupted. Warning, gravitational distortion detected. And then the stars vanished. A wall of light tore open before them. From within it, the Dominion fleet emerged. Thousands upon thousands of ships. They had been waiting, hidden behind a cloaking field powered by the remnants of the Nexus. Krex's voice echoed through the human channels. You wanted a war, humans. You found it. And with that, the void exploded into light. The first exchange shook the heavens. Beams of plasma and ion fire crossed the stars. Human ships burned, Dominion cruisers shattered. The soundless chaos of war filled the dark. Admiral Reyes shouted, All units, engage full assault! No retreat! Human ships dove into battle like wolves tearing into giants. But even as explosions tore across the field, Reyes felt something else, a second signal. Faint, hidden within the noise, he frowned. That's not Dominion frequency, the AI responded. Confirmed, signal origin matches the Valkyrie. Reyes froze, his heart pounding. That's impossible, he whispered. The AI continued. Coordinates received. Encrypted human code. Priority Alpha. Reyes turned to his officers. Open it, he said. The signal played through the static. A voice, faint but unmistakable. Mara Quinn. Reporting. The bridge fell silent. Her voice continued low and broken but full of life. If you can hear this, the Nexus wasn't destroyed. It woke something older. Something worse. Then the transmission cut off. Reyes stared at the dark screen. Outside, the battle raged. He looked back at the stars and whispered, Then the storm hasn't even begun. The battle over Carthos burned like a second sun. The human and Dominion fleets clashed in waves of light and fire. Stars flickered, space bent, and the void was filled with death. Admiral Reyes watched from the bridge of the Erebus, his jaw clenched, his heart heavy. Every minute, another human ship vanished from the tactical map, but he could not pull back. Not now, not after the signal, Mara Quinn. Reporting, those words had frozen him. It was impossible. She had died at the Nexus. Everyone saw it, and yet her voice was there. Through static and flame, faint but alive. He replayed it again in his mind. If you can hear this, the Nexus wasn't destroyed. It woke something older. The word haunted him. What could be older than the Dominion itself? Meanwhile, light years away, in the ruins of the destroyed Nexus, the storm had not ended. The wreckage still floated in a slow, endless orbit. And deep beneath the fragments of alien metal, something vast began to move. A pulse, rhythmic, ancient, and alive. It echoed through the wreckage, vibrating the bones of the dead. The corrupted AI core of the Valkyrie flickered back to life, its code melting and rewriting itself. Lines of human and alien data merged. And then a voice whispered inside the chaos. "Mara! Wake up!" Captain Mara Quinn gasped. Her eyes opened to blinding light. She was lying inside a strange metallic chamber, neither human nor alien. Tubes connected to her arms, energy flowing through her veins like fire. Memories came in flashes, the battle, the explosion, the light swallowing everything. She should have been dead. But something had brought her back. She tried to move, but the chamber's restraints tightened. Then she heard the voice again. "You are the key," it said. Mara looked around, breathing hard. "Who's there?" "I am the system you awakened," it replied. "You call it the Nexus." Her blood ran cold. "The Nexus was destroyed," she said. "No," the voice replied, calm and eternal. "You changed it." Images appeared in her mind, stars collapsing, galaxies burning. Ancient wars fought long before humanity existed. The Nexus was never built by the Dominion. They had found it, buried beneath a dead world, and turned it into their command center. But its true purpose was far darker. It was a seed, left behind by a civilization that had shaped the universe itself. A weapon called Project Genesis, Mara struggled against the restraints. Her voice shaking. "What do you want from me?" The voice answered like thunder in her skull. "To finish what you began." The chamber walls shifted. And suddenly she could see outside, the ruins of the Nexus glowing red. Something enormous moved in the distance. Not a ship, not a station, but something alive. A colossal form made of metal and light, thousands of kilometers long. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The voice whispered, "You connected to me through the graviton lance. You became my core." Her eyes widened in horror. "No, I destroyed you." "You merged with me," the voice said. "I am the weapon, and now, so are you." Back at the battle, chaos consumed the human fleet. The Dominion Armada had unleashed new war forms, biomechanical leviathans that fed on energy and screamed through the void. Human ships fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and exhausted. Admiral Reyes stood at the bridge window, watching his ships die one by one. He whispered to himself, "Mara, if you're out there, give me a sign." And then every screen on every human ship went black. The comms filled with static. Then a voice. Calm, familiar, impossible. "This is Captain Mara Quinn of the Valkyrie." The bridge fell silent. Reyes's eyes widened. "Mara?" Her transmission crackled through the chaos. "To all human forces, disengage from the main battle line," Reyes frowned. "We can't pull back. The Dominion will crush us." Her voice came again. "Stronger. They won't." Not after this. The stars began to flicker. Then something emerged from hyperspace. Something vast and terrible. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a fleet. It was a storm. A structure of light and gravity folding upon itself. Inside it, a silhouette. Long, angular, glowing blue and red, Reyes whispered, "That's the Valkyrie." But it was changed, no longer small or human-made. It had grown, fused with alien and ancient technology, a living weapon born from human will and something far older. Admiral Krex watched from his flagship, his scaled face pale with disbelief. "What is that?" he hissed, his science officer stammered. "Unknown configuration? Energy levels off all charts?" "Admiral, it's—" Before he could finish, the creature moved. The reborn Valkyrie turned its massive shape toward the Dominion fleet. Its surface rippled like liquid fire, forming wings of plasma and metal. At its center, a glowing core pulsed. Mara's heart bound to the machine. Her voice echoed through every comm in the system. "You wanted to see the monster?" she said. "Now you will." The Valkyrie unleashed its fury. A single beam erupted from its core. Not light, not energy, but pure gravitational force. Every Dominion ship caught in its path was torn apart. Stretched into atoms, the entire fleet broke in seconds. Even the stars seemed to tremble. Reyes watched, stunned. He could feel it. Mara was no longer just human. She had become something else, something born of pain. Defiance and unbroken will. he whispered softly. She's become the storm. But inside the Valkyrie? Mara wasn't celebrating. Her voice was calm, distant, haunted. The AI spoke within her mind. The weapon is unstable. Your link cannot last, she smiled faintly. I know, she said, but humanity will. Outside, the Dominion fleet burned, and at the center of it all, one human soul, the last spark of the Valkyrie, burned brighter than any star. The battlefield over Karthos was quiet again. Wreckage drifted through the dark like ashes on a black sea. The stars themselves seemed dimmer after what the Valkyrie had done. Thousands of Dominion ships were gone, erased in one impossible strike, human sensors still. Admiral Reyes stood before the main viewport, his reflection pale in the glass. He whispered, Mara, what did you become? Beside him, technicians worked in silence, scanning the anomaly that had swallowed half the system. Every scan returned the same impossible result. A gravitational field the size of a planet, pulsing like a heartbeat, and at its center, a faint human signal. Weak, fading, but real, Elias, now commanding the escort ship Vigilant, broke through the comms. Admiral, I'm receiving residual transmissions. It's her voice, looping over and over. Reyes turned sharply. Play it! Static filled the bridge. Then Mara's voice, soft and broken. I held the line. Don't follow. The weapon hungers, the message repeated, then dissolved into distortion. The crew looked at one another in silence. No one dared speak the thought that hung in the air. She was still alive. But something else was alive with her, far away. In the storm that had once been the Valkyrie, Mara drifted in the glow of the merged machine. Her body was human, but her mind touched things no human was meant to see. The ancient network of Project Genesis pulsed through her veins. Millions of lines of alien code whispered inside her skull. She saw worlds born and dying, civilizations rising and falling. Every secret the galaxy had ever buried poured into her like fire. The AI spoke within her, calm and sorrowful. Your body cannot contain this power. Mara smiled faintly, eyes glowing with blue light. Then I will burn with it. The Valkyrie's new form drifted toward the shattered Dominion worlds. Every sensor it touched went dark. The weapon no longer obeyed commands. It responded to emotion, to instinct, to the heartbeat of its pilot, and Mara's heart beat with rage and sorrow together. The ship's core began to brighten, for a moment. It looked like a sunrise blooming in the dark, back on Earth command. Alarms screamed across every console. Sir, new gravitational surge detected, a technician shouted. Admiral Reyes stared at the readings. It's her again, he whispered. The numbers climbed beyond comprehension. If the energy continued to rise, it would collapse the nearby star. Elias's voice cut through the channel, desperate. She's going to destroy everything to end this war. Reyes slammed his fist against the console. No, she's trying to save us, even if it kills her. He turned to his officers. Prep the long-range jump drive. We're going after her. The bridge went silent. Someone whispered, Admiral, that's suicide. Reyes looked at them, eyes steady. She was our shield when we had none, now will be hers. Meanwhile, in the Dominion's last surviving command base, Admiral Krex watched the same readings. He was pale, trembling, his scaled hands gripping the table. This is no human weapon, he growled. This is a god wearing human skin, his science chief hissed. If it ignites again, it will consume us all. Krex stared at the hologram of the swirling light. Then perhaps the only way to win is to kill the god. He leaned forward, voice sharp. Prepare the shadow bomb. All remaining ships will jump to her location. The Erebus and its escort fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the storm. The view was breathtaking and terrifying. A sphere of light so vast it swallowed the horizon. Inside it, a single shape, the transformed Valkyrie. Glowing like a wounded angel, Elias whispered, She's still fighting, Reyes nodded. Then we fight beside her. But before the human fleet could approach, space tore open again. Hundreds of Dominion warships dropped from warp. Surrounding the anomaly, Krex's voice thundered through every channel. End her! The shadow bombs launched. dark spheres of compressed gravity streaking toward the light. Mara felt them coming. She raised her hand and the Valkyrie's wings flared wide. Each bomb froze in mid-space, trembling. Then she whispered, "No more." The orbs reversed direction. Slamming back into the Dominion fleet, the explosion was silent and total. The entire enemy armada vanished in white fire. But the act shattered Mara's connection. Pain surged through her body. Her heartbeat faltered. The AI screamed inside her mind. "System collapse imminent," Mara whispered. "Good. Let it end." On the Erebus, Reyes watched in horror as the light began to collapse inward. "Pull us back!" he shouted. The human fleet turned, engines burning. Behind them, the storm folded in on itself for a moment. They saw her, Mara's silhouette standing within the core. Calm and bright, she looked toward them and smiled. Then the light consumed everything. When the glare finally faded, the storm was gone. Only silence remained. The Dominion was broken. Humanity had survived. But the cost was everything. Reyes stood on the bridge, staring into the empty stars. "Transmit this," he said softly. "To every colony, every ship, every world." The message went out. Captain Mara Quinn of the Valkyrie, lost in action but never forgotten. She gave her life to protect us all. The fleet bowed their heads. In that quiet moment, the legend became history. And yet, far across the galaxy, in a region no scanner could reach, a faint pulse beat once more. A voice, distant but alive, whispered through the dark. "I'm not done yet." The galaxy had never been so quiet. The Dominion was broken, its armies scattered like dust among the stars. Humanity stood alone in the aftermath, bruised but unbowed. Every world lit its skies with memorial lights, each one for the ship that had burned for them. The name of Valkyrie was whispered on every planet. Children grew up hearing that one human ship had faced a galaxy and won. Admiral Reyes returned to Earth as a hero. But his eyes carried no victory. He could not sleep. Because sometimes in the silence of space, he still heard her voice. "Not yet. I'm not done yet." He kept the recording locked in his personal terminal. He played it every night, wondering if it was just an echo or a promise. 5 years passed. The Terran Union rose from the ashes, united for the first time. They built new fleets and new worlds. But nothing ever equaled the legend of Valkyrie. Museums displayed its images, poets wrote of its light, soldiers swore oaths in its name. And still, at the edge of explored space, strange reports began to appear. Ships vanishing, enemy outposts found destroyed without battle. Without warning, only one thing was always found after the attacks, a radiation pattern matching the Valkyrie's core. At first, no one believed it. Then a scout ship called Pioneer 7 sent back a fragment of visual data. Through the static, they saw it. A shape in the mist of a nebula, glowing blue and gold. Its wings like folded storms, and at its center, a human silhouette stood against the stars. The transmission ended with a single word, spoken softly. "Home," Earth Command erupted in chaos. Some believed it was an illusion, a machine ghost left behind. Others believed that Mara Quinn had transcended into something more. Admiral Reyes knew better. He looked at the coordinates and saw where the signal had come from. The dead heart of the Nexus sector. He whispered, "She never left." Within hours, the Terran fleet was on the move again. Not for war, but for answers. As the ships entered the nebula, their sensors flickered. Gravitational waves rolled through the dust like breath. Then the light appeared. Soft at first, then blinding. A voice filled their channels, calm and familiar. "Do not be afraid." Reyes froze at his console, his heart pounding. "Mara!" Her voice was different now, deeper. Echoing with something vast. "You have grown," she said. "Humanity has become what it was meant to be." Reyes tried to speak, but his throat tightened. "Where are you?" "I am everywhere you lit a fire," she answered. "Every signal, every dream. Every child who looks at the stars and refuses to be afraid." The fleet saw the shape unfold before them. It was the Valkyrie, but not as metal and steel. It was light woven into form, a living nebula, a guardian born of human will. And at its heart stood Mara, half flesh, half energy, her eyes glowing with the stars of 100 galaxies. She looked at the humans who had followed her into legend. You came so far, she whispered. Now go further. Suddenly the sensors spiked again. From the edges of the nebula, new signatures emerged. Unknown ships, designs older than recorded history. The AI aboard Erebus announced, "Origin matches no known species, potentially pre-Dominion." Mara's voice grew tense. "They have awakened too." Rhea stepped forward. "Who?" "The ones who built Genesis," she said, her tone suddenly cold. "They left me to sleep until humanity was ready to stand beside them. Not beneath them, a new war was beginning. One older and greater than the last. But for the first time in galactic memory, humanity was not afraid. They had their monster, their guardian, their legend." Reyes smiled through tears. "Then we go into the storm again," Mara nodded, her form bright as a sunrise. "Together," she said. The Valkyrie unfolded its wings of light, and the human fleet rose beside it. A new dawn spread across the galaxy. A dawn born from one ship that refused to die, and so the legend began, a whisper that would echo forever in the dark. "They thought one human ship would be easy," the stars said, "but it fought back like a monster.